And ice cream castles in the air from both sides now. I've looked at love.
Yes, so Hairless here. Today we have a Patreon request. Thank you to Donde Está la Biblioteca for this one. This is a song, Both Sides Now, by Joni Mitchell. She is a Canadian-American singer-songwriter. This song was originally done in the late 60s. I believe she released it herself, performing in 1969. That was her singing and playing guitar.
And ice cream castles in the air.
There are definitely musical elements in this song that make it recognisable or memorable. This version that we'll be listening to today though, it's a newer arrangement, some 30 years or so later. It's an orchestral arrangement of the same song and she will be singing. The lyrics are on screen, please pause and have a read. They are nice and clever and introspective. There's a clear 3-section structure to the song in terms of subject matter. If I find the words here, so we start off with clouds. Then we move into love, and then we move into life. So this version of the same song, it's coming from her with an extra 30 years of life experience under her belt. I've listened to the 60s version several times, so it will be interesting to see what she does here with an orchestral arrangement.
Rows and flows of angel hair, and ice cream castles in the air, and feather canyons everywhere. Looked at clouds that way, but now they only block the sun. They rain and they snow on everyone. So many things I would have done, but clouds got in my way. I've looked at clouds from both sides now, from up and down, and still somehow it's cloud illusions I recall. I really don't know clouds. At all. Moons and Junes.
Okay, so this is the next section now about love. So we've gone from clouds to love. I think this is a good place to have a pause. We're nearly 2 minutes in. Yeah, there are some interesting things here because simultaneously there's not much going on really musically, but also there is. So we'll just kind of go back through it, pick out some of the more noticeable things. The first thing is the key. We're a major third down. The original is here, and now we're here. She's older, so being lower down, it's easier for her to sing. I'm often asked how you can tell what key a song is in. To be honest, you can just kind of feel it. I don't know, you just know. But there are sometimes telltale signs which can help you confirm. And in this case, it's her melody when she starts singing the lowest notes and the highest notes of the phrase.
Rows and flows of angel hair.
That one there.
And ice cream castles in the air.
And there, so she's singing both note D, and that's the key we're in. The opening, it's very mysterious. There's a lot of dissonance. There are a lot of lines that we hear in the instruments that stand out on an individual level. But when we merge them together, it's like a structured mess or mass of sound. It's eerily similar to the sound of an orchestra tuning up before they perform. In terms of some individual lines we hear, there are 3 more of the obvious ones that cause dissonance with each other, if you listen out for them. So one of them is in the violins. doing that over and over. There's another line which is just this constant, that note being held, and there's another line going.
Rose.
Because of them, being individual lines, and each individual line, its rhythmic components or sections, they're all different to each other, and how all these lines interweave with each other and sound at the same time. The sense of meter, of time, of structure is essentially gone. The music has just become a blur. It's just this constant movement and playing of sounds, almost sending us into a trance-like state.
Rose and flows of angel hair, an ice cream castle.
I personally find this version much more bittersweet than the original song. On one hand, it's a deflated feeling. She's lived her life and everything has its positives, but ultimately ends in disappointment. And on the other hand, we can kind of see it as like a celebration of her life experiences. The obvious difference really is her voice. It's clearly aged. It's deeper. There's a changed timbre. She sounds strained, almost like she's struggling to hit the notes.
In the air.
If we compare to the original.
Ice cream castles in the air.
As for the arrangement, there are a lot of layers going on. A lot. There's no chance on earth I'd be able to transcribe this part for part. There's just way too much going on.
So many things I would have done, but clouds go missing.
In the description, they have a list of all of the performers, so let's have a look. There's a lot there. We get this phrase that caught my eye, or ears. The lyrics are so many things I would have done.
So many things I would have done.
This line, in the original, it's suddenly a bit quieter compared to the previous line.
On everyone, so many things.
Here, we'll notice how she stays in her chest voice instead of moving up to her head voice for the top note.
So many things.
And that interval between me and things, that drop down, in the original,
So many things.
that is a major seventh. It's interesting, striking because of the nature of it. The two notes are... So in the key of this performance, it would be... But instead, she goes...
So many things.
And that is over an octave. If we move the bottom note up an octave, then it would sound like... Yes, the interval she does is not too clear because the bottom note isn't that clear, but that is the note she sings. It's a sign of how she's singing. Emotionally weak, you might say, because she's let herself fall down further.
So many things.
And also on the word many, it's much shorter than in the original.
So many things.
The elongated many. It's almost as if here in this version, she wants to reach this extended downward fall sooner. She wants to arrive at it sooner. Then just after that we get a kind of opening of the sound. It's mainly due to, one, the volume increase.
I've looked at clouds from both sides now.
But also instrumentally it's the introduction of the percussion. Very, very subtle, and we get some stronger bass too. And this bass, it becomes important in outlining the harmonic foundation underneath, this huge orchestral arrangement. And by this, it's just making it clear what the harmonic progression is, what the chord changes are.
I really don't know clouds. At all.
And that violin motif I pointed out earlier, that we hear over and over.
No clouds. At all.
In between her singing, it repeated twice, but this time it's moved down in pitch. Same motif, transformed in terms of pitch. And if we played them side by side, we can see the parallel movement. Okay, let's continue.
And juice and Ferris wheels, the dizzy dancing way that you feel, as every fairy tale comes true.
Bassline really important.
Love that way. But now it's just another show, and you leave them laughing when you go. And if you can, don't let them know. Don't give yourself away. I've looked at love from both sides now,
Suspension into the
from
supersonic.
give and take, and still somehow it's love's illusions that I recall. I really don't know love. I really don't know love at all. And fears and feeling proud.
Okay, so now this is the next section about life. So we've just had love, and now we're going to be moving on to life. So let's do a little recap of the love section. Some new things, some new ideas that we've heard. This phrase I'm about to play, we get a tiny bit of embellishment. There are some additional notes that she does compared to the original version, and in turn an extra word.
The dizzy dancing way that you feel.
And in the original, this particularly stands out because in the original, this moment, it's a moment of rhythmic strength. When she sings, Way You Feel, she's strumming the chords homophonically with the words at the same time. There's nothing else sounding in between these chords. That's it. Chord and sing, chord and sing, chord and sing. Very much unlike here.
Dancing way that you feel.
And then the next line, as every fairy tale comes real. Here, the word every, she sings it just as 2 syllables.
As every fairy tale comes real.
In the original,
As every fairy.
very clearly 3 syllables. And also how elongated the word is in this version.
Every fairy tale.
It's so much longer. This is the same musical point as we heard earlier. So kind of like a repetition but different words. So again, we get that major 7th drop in the melody.
Every fairy.
So in this key it would be. But instead she sings.
As every fairy tale.
An octave, which is a much more pure or complete sounding interval compared to. That's such a rich dissonance. Whereas the octave, the same note. These differences that she's doing, they are interesting because in this newer version, the music underneath, it's very repetitive. As I said earlier, it's kind of trance-like. We get these motifs, the violin motifs, for example, they're just not stopping. They're repeating over and over and over, not changing, even as some of the other more prominent instruments, such as the bass, the harmonic foundation, is changing. A bit further on, we again see some change. This time, the sound is becoming more powerful. The lyrics, and you leave them laughing when you go. Of course, the bass again is very prominent here. It has a descending stepwise figure, so listen out for that.
And you leave them laughing when you go.
Again, no surprise, a stark contrast to the original song from 30 years prior. The original, it doesn't have much variety in it.
You leave them laughing when you go.
It's one voice, one guitar, and mostly repeated musical verses, with some small changes here and there. In this version, she is ensuring variety between the verses. New instruments being introduced, sounds getting louder, even though much of the instrumental music underneath isn't changing. You could kind of think of it as a little conflict between change and not change. There was one bit I liked. I kind of see it as a moment of enlightenment. We got this suspension. And then the brass comes in, the horn, I think.
I've looked at love.
Emphasizing the major third of this D major chord. and it's the third note that determines if we're major or minor. So emphasis on the major third, the happy third, the brighter nature of the music. And the violins, they're playing that note here, the E, that's note number 2 of the scale, the supertonic, the tonic, and the supertonic, which just means notes 1 and 2. A resonant dissonance right at the top of this big arrangement.
I've looked at love.
This musical style,
Love it all.
it's quite string heavy, a lot of suspensions, we've got brass, that kind of thing. To me, it's very typical of some famous music at the time. It reminds me a lot of some soundtracks from TV shows or films from the time, such as Band of Brothers, a favourite of mine. Or The Shawshank Redemption, another favourite of mine. Alright, so we got to the life section, let's continue to the end.
Tears and fears and feeling proud to say I love you right out loud. Dreams and schemes and circus crowds, I've looked at life that way. Oh, but now, old friends, they're acting strange, and they shake their heads and they tell me that I've changed. Well, something's lost, but something's gained in living every day. I've looked at life from both sides now, from win and lose.
Quite jazzy, that.
And still somehow it's life's illusions I recall. I really don't know life at all. It's life's illusions that I recall. I really don't know life. I really don't know life at all.
The repeated motif is slightly changed now, 4 notes to 3. I found it a bit difficult where to look because there's no video to this. That's not the point though. There's not too much that was different really from that last section musically to speak about. There are just a few things, so I'll go over them. The most noticeable thing instrumentally would probably be the addition of the woodwind. They're very jazzy and they add an element of playfulness to this rather bittersweet, thoughtful song. There was one bit here with the violins where they rise up and then sustain a note.
And they shake their heads and they tell me that I've changed. Well,
I'm thinking, why is this here? Why have they done that? What are the lyrics at this point? The lyrics are, and they shake their head and they tell me that I've changed. So are these violins, is that a form of change? Is the movement up a journey and then the sustained note is the change? Because usually you write music for a reason, and if there are lyrics, usually the music should enhance those lyrics. But who knows? Only the arranger will know why that's there. But with songs like this, I like that they can make you think about these these things. As I said in the introduction, the song, it's an introspective song based on the lyrics. And it's definitely interesting her sing this 30 years later. It's such a different sound, naturally, that comes with age. But it's almost as if we can feel that she's lived her life.
And still somehow
it's the same lyrics as the original song. A different musical core, of course, but the same melody, same lyrics. But a vastly different feeling. Perhaps she always intended to revisit this at some point in her life as an older woman. Both Sides Now is the title. Her younger self was one side, her older self the other side. And at the time of each song, both were the now part. But at this section, I think it's that repeated musical figure, the slide into the sustained note. And that really brings attention to this changed voice.
and still somehow
These repetitions, the hoarseness of sound, the air that comes with it. Yeah, just completely different sound to 30 years prior. The next line that leads into life's illusions, they're the lyrics. And again, we see an elongation on this.
life's illusions.
She's emphasizing all the various illusions that we experience. By definition, an illusion is a misinterpretation of sorts. In the original, it's much more of an innocent sound here.
It's life's illusions.
There's not so much conviction behind this moment. Yeah, all in all, I think the remake, it's carefully constructed. She's definitely chosen the moments that she wants to emphasize, whether that be through rhythmic adjustments or melodic adjustments or instrumental emphasis. It's another of her own takes on her own song, just this time she's now armed with an arsenal of a life's worth of experiences. In a way, I kind of see this newer version as a metaphor for how things might not change, but we do, and consequently so do our views on the very same things. It's a strange one because it's the same song by the same person, but they're just so different whilst also being similar for obvious reasons. The lyrics, the melody. Yeah, very different feels. And whilst this newer one probably has more emotional depth, I think I prefer the earlier version. Maybe I'll change my mind if I listen some more, who knows. Alright, let's leave that one there. Thank you again for this request and thank you to everyone for watching. Would appreciate a like and subscribe. If you enjoy my content, want to support me, join the community or vote on future polls, you can do so by joining the Patreon on the screen now, and I will see you next time.